G'day legends, I hope that you're all doing well. Now today, the word on everyone's mind is counteroffensive. So we're going to talk about that, some influence and some things, and President Xi and Zelensky and what could potentially happen there. But as always in the beginning, because what you guys like the most from this is a look at the maps. And we're going to go over some things in Avdiivka, some things in Bakhmut, and we haven't seen massive changes today, but we have been a lot of sources coming through that tomorrow, maybe the next day, we will start seeing some changes as things move backwards and forwards. But less of me talking, let's get into it. So, of course, in the middle, we've got Ukraine, the capital of Kyiv, Romania, Poland, Belarus, and Russia around here. The red, of course, being what Russia has occupied since 2022, and the purple since 2014. The green being areas that Ukraine has liberated from the Russians. Now, where we're going to come is actually down here into Avdiivka. Now, Avdiivka is one of the main areas where we're seeing some level of surround, and we see that Russia is having more and more offensive. So a lot of places are saying that there is really three main hot zones that could be encircled, currently being Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and Mariinka. But today we'll look at Avdiivka. As Russian sources are saying this, that Kamianka here has now been completely put under Russian control. So in this map, let's look on the 29th, and if we step back one day to the 28th yesterday, and then to today, what do we see? Now, what we do see is no move on this small town here, but what we do see on the south is Ukraine has cleared some ground to the southwest. So if we go back yesterday and then today, the Russians have been pushed back here, and also on just the due south of Avdiivka, although this red assessed control hasn't moved, excuse me, the grey zone has shrunk. So maybe Ukraine is having some success in these areas of pushing back. As we know, this region has had many launches of offensives both to and from. So let's have a look at some Russian maps in and around this area and see what is being said. So this is Avdiivka here, and this is the Kamianka, which is here. They're talking different spelling, but sometimes translated from Ukrainian to English, Russian to English, has some different spelling. We'll see that again and again with some areas, but this is the area they're talking about, and they are saying that they have completely got this under control. But if we look on the eastern side, where this major intersection is here, is fairly similar, and the southern side is similar as well, but they're saying this is under control. But they're also saying that they've pushed a fair bit further out of the east past this as well. So if we look on the zoomed out version of this, which is this map right here, let's have a look and see if we can see any of what we've seen from these Ukrainian pushes on the south. So we haven't really got a good idea of this. So where we're looking is this Pervomansky here. So you can sort of see that it has been pushed back into pretty much in line with where the Russian map is here. So if we look, we got 1, 2, 3 of these small basins. Let's see if we can see them here. So 1, 2, 3, and it's down on, this one is saying on the third, and this one is saying that it is between the second and third. So the Rybar, at least, which is more the Russian sources, is showing more of what it was showing yesterday in that area. But it is interesting how these maps change day to day as they come out and are released. Now, we're going to push up into Bakhmut. And as we talk about this, we'll look at a few different maps. And the Ukrainian sources are really saying that Wagner has launched another push and has entered into the city with heavy fighting on all sides. So we'll move up into Bakhmut and have a look of between yesterday and today. Now, there is absolutely no real change except for this small block here between the 28th and 29th, and this is up in the Azom metalwork facility as well. So let's have a look on a Russian sources map here, and what we've got is the Wagner map, and let's see what it is showing different. So on the deep state, we're sort of seeing that this front line has been very stable across here against the Bakhmutka River. But this is saying that they have crossed the Bakhmutka and are coming more now into the central and have cleared this region through the Azom military Azom complex. And as well on the south, have pushed further up as well. So this is where we see this split, and they're saying through here, so this split and similar-ish, but more up into this region, as we haven't seen a huge change. And I think these maps are fairly similar, but the major bit being is they've pushed across to the west side of the Bakhmutka River, which runs through here and through here on this. Now, what we have seen from a Ukrainian source, being this Aussie Defender, which is on the Ukrainian side, is that Wagner forces are reported currently being stormed in the centre of Bakhmut near this administrative building, although I haven't seen actually any evidence of this. But this map is from the ISW. So let's have a look at the ISW map and see what is looking different here. And as you can see, this centre bit, so they're saying the administrative building is in here somewhere. This down here is the Bakhmutka River, and that Russia is still on the eastern side of the river here, but they're saying they could have entered into here, but saying that this is at least claimed control, tightening up on this region. So tightening up on here, saying they're more down into here. So it is interesting always, I think, to have a look between these maps and show some different things of what it is saying, and they're showing different. But this road of life through Kromove is definitely still open, and they're moving both troops in and out and weapons into this area, as Ukraine now is really determined to hold Bakhmut. Now, we've heard again and again that Bakhmut isn't tactically important and that the fight was more symbolic than strategy. But again and again, we are proven wrong with some recent claims. Like on March 6th, the US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin said that Bakhmut was more symbolic than strategic. But today, in an interview with the Associated Press, President Zelensky said that Bakhmut fell to Russian forces, that Vladimir Putin would sell the victory of the West to his society, to China and Iran. Continuing with, if he will feel some blood, smell that we're weak, he will push and push and push. With Zelensky also saying that if this was to fall, it could be an open road into the rest. So it is difficult to say if it is symbolic or strategy. But as well, some things that could be symbolic are also strategy. When we talk that morale amongst troops and amongst wider community in times of war means a lot. So when we say symbolic, well, it could be a symbol of, hope for the nation, a symbol to continue. As we know, support in Ukraine for defeating Russia is massive, and support in Russia for this war is sometimes huge, sometimes very low on certain fringes of society. So, something that is symbolic can actually have a lot of tactical strategy advantages as well. Now, Prigozhin, the leader of Wagner Group, has this to say, with lots of speculation coming from comments about this. So he has said that the Battle for Bakhmut would destroy the Ukrainian army and be a great turning point in history. The Battle for Bakhmut today practically destroyed the Ukrainian army, and if Bakhmut wins this battle, then only one Russian army will remain on the chessboard. Now, the very interesting thing he says here is that the battle could be the last for Wagner. Now, these were actually from a audio clip that has been doing the rounds. Now, if Wagner PMC dies in this meat grinder and takes the armed forces of Ukraine with it, and thus enables the Russian army to continue to defend the interests in Russia, then we have filled our historical role and we can put an end to this. Now, I can't find any really official translations of this except for this, and this is what's been doing the rounds through many channels on both sides, getting a lot of criticism. Is he saying that Wagner could, be actually defeated in this region? So we're not really sure, but what we are sure of is that we know Bakhmut is very important, and myself and every other blogger and news following this war on both sides has been incorrect with how long that Ukraine has been able to hold Bakhmut, with months ago it looking like it could fall any day, and we have absolutely been wrong on this. But what we do know is that the men lost in the city alone, and the amount is absolutely unbelievable on both sides. Now, somewhere else we're going to talk about, as we did see a lot of movement and then we've seen very limited, is Mariinka. And we have actually seen a lot of Russian sources and officers saying that Ukraine has really good defense in this area because of these major roads and being able to defend this reasonably flat, open terrain. So have we seen anything over the past 24, 48 hours? Not really. Now, let's look on the Russian sources and see what they're saying. Let's just move this aside to get a better look. So this is the main road coming through here, where we've seen Russia not really cross on this map that main road, although the grey zone being all the way through Mariinka, and there has been a lot of footage of vehicles and stuff moving almost all the way into the east of here. But the map is showing very similar. So it's showing this bubble out to the north and as well down bubbling out to the south, forming somewhat of a very loose encirclement, maybe a future, but it is also showing that this main road here, that they haven't really been able to cross this, maybe on the north, but as far as right in the center, not really, and there's a lot of fighting. So what this is showing here, these images are geolocated images of areas within here, as we've seen a lot of fighting, and Mariinka, from a lot of photos, has been somewhat absolutely flattened. Now we're going to head back up north and have a look at some claimed Russian ground near Torsky as well. So this is the front line that we are talking about. So sort of near Kremena and Le Mans. So one of the main focus points we're going to look at is this reservoir here and how this lines up, just to get an idea of where we're actually looking. So this is the Rybar forces here, and what we do see, let me move this to the side to give you guys a better idea. It isn't perfectly lined up, but this waterway is here as well. And what we do see is that Russia is claiming a lot further push east in a lot of these regions. So we looked at, they're saying they're almost right in Torsky. Let's look. So Torsky is here. So I should say they've actually probably fairly on with this. And then in Makivka, Russia is saying they're almost fighting right up into here, where the map isn't showing it that far in. And I'll just let you guys compare these two together. So in some areas it's closer, some areas it is less. So I guess in this just north of Dobrova, it is showing, so north almost, that this map is showing that Russia has made more gains. So it is hard to get an idea. But that will be the end of our maps for today. Now, we've spoken many, many times that China could be a huge curveball in this war with their massive military and massive economic power. Now, with their official stance being neutral, but still very open to communications with Russia, especially within the last week, face-to-face meetings over a number of days between Xi and Putin, and calling each other old friends, and a lot of speculation coming up with this. Now, Zelensky has publicly extended an invitation to President Xi to come to Ukraine and has not yet received any reply. Now, Zelensky has said, "We are ready to see him here. I want to speak with him. I had contact with him before the full-scale war, but during all this year, more than 1 year, I don't have." And this has made the rumor mill about this absolutely go huge. Now, this comes after huge speculation that China has provided Russia with non-lethal aid and intends on sending them lethal aid, although there is no evidence of any lethal aid. If this was to happen, it could stretch the support of Western allies to Ukraine even further, especially with lethal support and overall support, as people could see it as far as the war widening and going more global. As well as we know, China has the ability to make a massive amount of weapons, and a massive amount of weapons that can be implemented into Russia as far as shells, barrels, weapons, things like that. So I think there is definitely an idea of trying to keep this war contained within the countries involved in it, as West absolutely has the upper hand, that if countries like India and China were to get involved, it could definitely level out the playing field a little bit. We have spoken how non-lethal aid could be very important to Russia as well, as Russia definitely does lack some command and control and some ISR on the ground. Now, the word on everyone's mind are these counteroffensives, with a general consensus that I'm seeing is that they are to start early April. Being late March now, it could really be any day. Although doubts have been thrown in the ring, with Zelensky only last week saying we cannot send them, meaning our troops, under such conditions. Now, these offensives are looking to be spearheaded with the new Western armour that Ukraine has recently received, as well as the troops trained in that armour and a heap of infantry soldiers trained in the West, in Britain, in Germany, places like that, on NATO tactics and alongside NATO soldiers. This is along with newer long-range strike capability that we've seen Ukraine strike a number of places like Melitopol today, and these capabilities should give Ukraine a technological edge, but Russia potentially have greater numbers on the front line, or can actually pull in larger numbers, and being now that Russia could be on the defensive, it is absolutely less challenging for them than the country on the offensive, as it's a lot easier and a lot less manpower to be in a defensive position than an offensive position, normally at a 3-to-1 advantage. As we've seen Ukraine in sort of a defensive posture recently, with Russia's winter offensives largely failing, although capturing some ground in the Donetsk oblast. A lot rides on these offensives, as if Ukraine can show it can regain and hold large areas of territory territory. The PR and Western support could definitely increase. But if the opposite happens, well, we're unsure of how the support would be for another offensive. One thing we do know is that Ukraine will be heading into this without modern fighter aircraft. Now, Ukraine's Air Force spokesman Yuri again has urged for more modern fighters, explaining that the Soviet MiG-29s supplied from Poland and Slovakia were not enough to defend Ukrainian territory on the air, land, and sea. But US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said to a Senate hearing in March 28th that modern fighter jets would not help Ukraine at this stage of the war, given that they're providing them is an 18-month long process. Now, of course, these jets would do a lot, but they are a minimum of 18 months away, even if announced today. So we're not going to see modern Western aircraft in an offensive or even this year, which is a huge blow to combined arms capability. Now, we saw Russia's armoured failures in the beginning of this war, and one of the many reasons behind this is they did fail to gain any air superiority. And there has been a lot of talk about the potential of sending contracted ex-pilots from Western countries in these aircraft into Ukraine that would negate the training times for training Ukrainian pilots on these airframes, but at this stage it is just all rumours. Again, as this all starts, I fear that the human cost of this war, that we haven't even seen the full extent of the human disaster that this war has brought yet, as more weapons, more tech, and more bodies are going to be just poured into this war as offensives from both sides launch, we will see the losses skyrocket. In a war where we can watch someone's final moments through a drone in the sky only minutes after the event. As far as human loss, I fear the worst is yet to come. Blame who you want, but at the end of the day, right or wrong, these are just young people fighting. Like every war, I hope that we learn from the last that we can't do this to each other again and again. But the war to end all wars was well over 100 years ago, and tens of conflicts have passed since. But that's me for today. I hope you guys are having a great day. If you'd like to support me, there's links below, but never, ever feel obliged to do that. So have a great day, have a great weekend, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye.